Welcome to the Exceptionally Irresistible Show, featuring conversations with people who have demonstrated exceptional success in their lives and who have some irresistible qualities worth learning from. Come learn how others have created an exceptionally irresistible life. You too can live an extraordinary life, both personally and professionally. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Exceptionally Irresistible Show. This one is officially the last interview of this season. It's a bittersweet moment. We're at the end, but we're getting ready for the next season. Next week is the recap and the final episode, so I'm going to hope to see you guys there. It's going to wrap up the entire season and what we've spoken about. But today we left almost like the best for the last in a sense, as young as this wonderful person is, but there's incredible lessons to learn here, and we're going to share them here with you today. But first, let me give you a little bit of context and why we chose this to be the last episode. Well, it's simple. Many of you who are following our content and what we're talking about listen a lot, you guys are hearing a lot about the formula, the VIP formula. And the VIP formula, what we like to say is value plus impact equals profit. VIP, value plus impact equals profit. And we often talk about the example of the archer. And the archer, their main priority is to hit the target. And the target is about what is it that we're bringing to our customers, our people? What's the goal? What's the purpose? Yes, there are accolades at the end. Yes, there are rewards at the end. Those are all nice and wonderful. However, if you don't hit that target, you don't achieve those results. You don't get that goal. And so to make this all real and effective, we brought a pro athlete, archer, somebody who this is what she does. This is, she knows everything about archery. And we are here with CJ. CJ, thank you so much for saying yes.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So right before we jump into, the discussion about archery, my very first question, I like to ask this to everybody. If you were standing on some kind of rooftop somewhere, you have a bullhorn in your hand, you're calling out a message, what's that message that you have for the world?
Probably just go and do what you want and don't be scared to just live out your dream.
Love it. And so does that tie in with archery for you, or how's that tie that in?
It kind of does, because I love shooting my bow. It just gives me just somewhere to get away and just shoot and just give me time to think or just do whatever I want.
Wow.
So and I get to travel too while doing it. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So you're doing this on a competitive level. Mm-hmm. Did you wake up one morning and you decided, I'm an archer, I'm an athlete, this is what I'm doing?
Not really. So when I was little, I had a bow. I got one for Christmas. I was like, oh, I'm going to shoot and I'm going to try hunting with it and stuff. But I was so little that my poundage wasn't high enough to hunt, because you have to have a certain poundage that'll actually kill the deer. And so there was not really a club or anything around to practice with, and I was the only one doing it, so I hated practicing. Okay. I just wouldn't do it. So I put it down, and then in 8th grade, there was a boy that came into my class with flyers for a local team, and I was like, I'm just going to try it.
Wow.
So I was like, I did it when I was little, let's try it again. So I tried it, and I decided I really liked it. I borrowed a bow for a couple months just to see if I liked it before I spent the money on something more. And so once I figured out I liked it, it was right around November. So for Christmas, I got my first bow. And I've stuck with it ever since.
That is incredible. And so just it sounds like from what you're sharing is that some kind of inner calling told you, shoot a bow, whether I kill a deer or not, whether I hit a target or not, I don't know. Right now it's just shoot a bow and shoot it right.
And have fun.
I love it. That's such an important message. And what I'm interpreting from what you're sharing, and this is, by the way, this is totally unscripted. This is brand new even to me. And it's just funny because I grew up a lot, and I share this a lot, that I grew up a lot with the story of the bow and the arrow,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's a very common example that's brought particularly in Jewish mystical teachings, where the farther back you
Mm-hmm.
extend something, the farther it goes further. So that's as the extent of my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're now sharing is something a little bit deeper in the sense of like, you know, grabbing a bow. There's criteria. There's
Mm-hmm.
criteria to, you know, if you're killing the deer or whatever it is that you're trying to hit. There are certain level of criteria. But right now that doesn't matter what the criteria is. Right now the matter is get that bow in your hand,
Mm-hmm.
you know, get it right
Yeah.
and do it well and do it for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because it sounds like it was pretty frustrating when you were practicing and when there was nothing
Yeah.
coming out of it.
Nothing like to shoot for.
Right.
Like I wasn't competing at the time. I didn't really even know about competitions. And then I was just so little. I didn't have the strength to hunt. So I was
Right.
like, what am I doing this for?
Right.
But now there
Mhm.
is. So
And I wonder if starting out young gave you a certain amount of, let's say, experience in shooting a bow. And what's shooting a bow now like? How many years is that roughly
I was
since?
probably 7 when I picked up a bow for the first time, and then I was in 8th grade, so
Hmm.
about 13 when
Right.
I picked it up again for
So we're
competitive.
looking, okay, yeah, so about 7 or so ish
Mm-hmm.
years. Um, so now you could say technically that you're pretty experienced with a bow. Is
Yeah, I mean,
that?
not as
Mhm.
experienced as a lot out there, but
Sure.
I mean, there are a bunch of people
Hmm.
that started when they were like 3 and 4, even
Wow.
just with like a little Genesis, just toy bow, that are now like pros
Wow.
and do it for a living. And I'm
Hmm.
not as experienced as some of them, but I've got a little bit of experience. So
Right. And you're still practicing every day, or what does a day of an archer look like? What is like?
I had, it's a lot.
Mhm.
Like whenever I'm going to shoot a competition, I'm shooting a lot. Like in the days before, just trying to make sure everything's dialed in, everything, my strength's built up. But really, it's just with having the farm and everything, it's just a lot of just whenever I have time.
Wow.
Like I just don't really have enough time to do it every day, so I just try to shoot a little bit, even if it's like 30 arrows when I can.
Wow. That's incredible. Now, on the competitive side, you know, what's the purpose really to really compete? So, what does it look like in a competition? What
So
does the field look like, I guess?
it kind of depends on which competition you go to.
Mm-hmm.
So we have what we call USA Archery Field, and that's just, or FIDA, and that's just a 50-meter field, and you stand on a line and shoot 72 arrows for qualification one
Oh
day.
wow.
And then the next day you'll have eliminations, and it's head to head. So if like the first ranked archer goes against the say 16th, and they shoot against each other, and second and 15th all the way,
Mm.
and then they divide the field, so you're finally with 8 archers, and you just work it down until you end up with first, second, third.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so that's like USA Archery FIDA. And so you just shoot at an 80 centimeter like spot. And then I just got back from a competition yesterday, and it's 3D. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's through an organization called ASA. And so there's 20 foam targets. You walk through the course, shoot them. There's certain rings on them that's worth certain points. So there's a smaller ring at the top, and it's worth 12, but you have to call it. And then
Mm.
there's a middle ring, and that's just 10. And then there's a lower 12, and you don't have to call that one. But if you call the upper, that one's out of play.
Right. Got it.
And then there's a ring on the outside of it, and it's worth 10.
Mm.
And then there's an 8, and then if you don't hit inside the 8 but you still hit the target, it's 5.
Mm.
So that's a little bit more. There's 2 days of that, so you shoot 20 targets the first day and 20 the second day.
Wow.
So it's a little bit different depending on what like type you're doing. So but
Mm-hmm.
it's all with like the same bows and everything.
So is it still like the typical rings that are like you get the middle and then extends outward, or this is a little bit
This
different?
is different with ASA.
Interesting.
So with like USA Archery FIDA, you've got the center, which is an X, and it's worth 10 points. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's a ring outside of that, and it's worth 10 points. And the X's are just used as tiebreakers.
Mm.
And then you have 9, and that's the yellow. And then you get into the red, and that's the 7 and 8. And then you go out to 6, and then you have a 5 ring, and that's the blue. And then like the recurve archers, theirs goes out to like 1, but with compound they stop it at 5.
Interesting.
But with ASA, it's like a 3D just target animal. So it's like you'll go out and shoot a deer, or like a wolf or a coyote or something.
Oh wow.
And so the rings are a little bit different, and you can't see the rings. Like they're kind of indented, and you have to use your binoculars to see them.
Oh wow.
But it's not like it's bright yellow. It's like, aim here. No, you just have to kind of pick a spot and
kind of just go with
it, even if you can't see it.
Wow. And like as you're sharing this, I see so many similarities in business as well. How every business is different. Every business, you're going to hear a lot of like the typical, cash flow. So you just have to, make sure you're making enough money or whatever, and it's not always the case. Every business, every situation, every entrepreneur, everything is really different. And there is no way of really knowing what's the right thing, or, and you just kind of have to pick a spot and call it in a sense and just go for it. That's wonderful. That's really incredible that there are so many similarities. And so my question again to you is, why do you get on that field today? Like, why were you there yesterday?
It's fun. I mean, I just have fun doing it. And then it's fun to see like your friends that travel from different states, because this is a national tournament. So I've got friends that live in Missouri. I've got friends that live in Alabama, Mississippi, like Tennessee, Georgia, just from all over. So you get to go see them, hang out with them, have fun. And then there also is like prizes. And so that depends on your class and how many people there are, how much you get paid out. So they take part of what you pay to get in and split it up. And then it depends how many people are in your class to the top, however many they pay. Normally they'll pay like top 10-ish, but top 3 get more. So it just kind of depends, but it's fun to do, and just go hang out with your friends, have fun, stand out in the heat or rain or whatever.
Whatever comes at you.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing is that there is a component of like, I'd love to be top 3, I'll get paid the most.
Yeah.
But what I'm really hearing, and especially your first reaction, was more like, I'm hanging out with my friends. I'm hanging out with, the like-minded people who are in the same competition with me. And I'm guessing, do you guys like share notes? Do you guys like talk archery, or is it everything? Or
it's kind of everything. It depends. Like I shot with a lady. We get random just groups, and we shoot 4 to 5 to a group, depending on how many people there are. And so there was a lady from here or around this area that I shoot with, and so I got paired in a group with her. So we would just talk about whatever. Sometimes we just talk about archery, life. It just depends. Normally, if you go out into your group the first day, some of the first questions people ask are, where are you from? Or how old are you? Or like, what are you studying in school? That kind of thing. Just because we're from everywhere. So we just try to get to know each other as we're shooting and just having fun.
Right. And right now we are going through the Olympics season and stuff. Is that anything on the horizon for CJ, or?
Not at the moment. So they don't have compound archery in the Olympics. It's only recurve. So recurve is in it now, and we just did it in Paris. And so we had a guy that won silver for men's USA, and then we had our mixed team got bronze. So that's 1 male and 1 female, and they pick the best from the US based on how they qualified the day before. And so that's nothing soon. Hopefully they will get compound in the Olympics. Everybody's like, please, like they have other stuff that you wouldn't think would be in the Olympics, but we can't get compound archery. So if it ever is, possibly, but it'd probably be several years down the road.
Sure. Is that, so let's say they do, hypothetically speaking, they do, and you find out, what does CJ of whatever that period in time, what's going through her mind, typically, CJ speaking here?
I'm not sure, I don't know, that I'd have the time, and like I'd love to do it just full time, like professionally, but I just don't think I'd have the time to be able to do it on my own and still run the farm and everything else. Plus, you have to be winning a lot to do it full time and make a living off of it. So I'd like to make it to the Olympics, but just I'm not sure if it'll ever happen. Because you have to be good, and scores are getting better as the years go on. Like it used to be in USA Archery FIDA, you shoot out of 720. It used to be that a 700, you'd be qualified first, and you could probably win the whole tournament. Now 700 will put you in like 5th or 6th place.
Oh wow!
Qualifying, because
so it's getting more competitive.
It's getting very competitive.
That's interesting.
I mean, we were just talking about this weekend. In 3D, the max distance for pros is 50 yards. So the scores in the men's pro class has gotten so big that they're moving it back to 60 to drop the scores down, because they're getting almost perfect.
Wow.
And then at that point, what do you do? So they're backing the yardage up another 10 yards.
That's so interesting. So I'm going to come back to this one, because this one is really interesting to me, especially the overlap in terms of business. But hypothetically speaking, you do end up going to the Olympics. You never know. Hey, you do end up, to me at least, somebody who watch, I don't really watch the Olympics, but I'm like, when I look at somebody who's at the Olympics, like they want the title of gold medalist. They want the title of, whatever title they're going after. To me, it's a title thing. As somebody who would potentially, maybe not go into the competition, what is it for you?
I think it'd be cool, definitely, to have that title, but it's just, I mean, if you have fun while doing it and then go out and make that title like you won, then it would be, just make it so much better.
Right.
And then also you get paid for it. And so like one of the guys from the US, he does it full time. So I know that helped him like with his family, because he had to make that money in order to like keep his family going.
Well, also to justify it, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure, I could see that. So once again, is this is the career-occurring theme, is that it's everything combined. It's the money, it's the accolades, it's the it's the bragging rights, it's the whatever it is. But what you're saying is that, and I guess a lot of athletes are probably going to agree with you, if it's not going to be done fun, it's not worth it.
Not worth it.
Interesting. So going back to the to that thing that we were just saying earlier regarding to the dropping and it's getting more competitive and everything, a lot of entrepreneurs feel that business has become more competitive, particularly with social media, particularly with a lot of the technology that's out there. A lot of people are scared AI is coming to take away their job. I wonder if AI is ever going to replace archers or something, but but I'm saying, like, that it's becoming more competitive in your sport. What are the typical advice or, motivations or whatever's out there? What are they typically coaching you guys, telling you guys? What are you hearing?
So I just do it kind of by myself. So I'm just watching scores, and I don't really have a coach.
Okay.
So I'll just kind of watch scores, and I'm like, oh, well, this person's getting better, and everybody else is kind of following. So I have to practice to get better if I want to stay in the top, however many, like 5 or whatever, depending on the competition. So I'm like thinking to myself, I have to practice to get better since everybody else is getting better.
Right. So you have to up your game.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you don't have a coach and you don't have somebody who's really helping you out. How do you navigate that? Do you feel like you're a little bit behind the game, or, had you had a coach, it would probably be better, but how do you navigate the fact that you're kind of doing this on your own?
I started with a coach, so I feel like I got a good basis.
Okay.
But I also, it's kind of more freedom, because it's not, when I was with the team, part of the team ended up going and doing 3D, and then the other part stayed with USA Archery and did FIDA. Well, with that, they're coaching you, and you feel more pressured to do whatever they're doing.
Right.
So I feel like now I can just go have fun. Do I like what kind of like FIDA, ASA, whatever I want, and not feel pressured to do one or the other. And then I shoot indoor too. and there's a league they have in Shelby. And so we go every Thursday night. You pay like $20, just shoot, have fun. There's a little bit of money payout at the end.
Cool.
And so you just go do that. Well, I've made friends through that. And so there's a lot of friends that I have there that have helped me out who are shooting in the pro class in ASA, or they've been experienced longer than I have. So they'll help me too.
But you sound like, so as you're sharing this, and this is what's coming to me, is that you sound pretty self-motivated, if you will. It's like you have your own discipline, you have your own goals. Maybe it's not like as pro as most pro athletes are, but for now this is working out for you. You're also still young, so that kind of makes sense as well. But for now this is working out for you, and for now you have the required discipline for what it is that your target or your goal is. Is that correct? Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, it's not like I have to go to practice once a week or whatever. It's just however I need to or can work around my schedule. So I just try to at least discipline myself enough to get it done a couple times a week when I have time.
So where does that discipline come from? I'm just curious. I mean, especially from a younger generation and a younger group, it's like, I hear this a lot in my work. CEOs and business owners are often complaining, the younger generation is just not disciplined enough. The younger generation just ain't what you used to be, do you have something that's motivating you, driving you, inspiring you?
I feel like it helps a lot growing up on a farm because I'm used to working and doing something constantly. So if I don't have something to do, I'm just sitting there like just about to go crazy because I don't have something to do.
Right.
And so that gives me something to do. It gets me outside, gives me something to work for.
Sure.
And so I'm not just sitting there because that just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Like during COVID, just having to stay at home all the time was driving me insane.
Wow.
Just because I have to be doing something.
Sure.
Because I'm not one of the gamer kids. I can't just be sitting inside on a tablet or phone or something all the time. Just because it's not something. I just have too much energy almost for that.
I see
Even though I'm always tired and wore out from something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're pretty busy I've seen that. And by the way, we go hang out by their farm, so we see. So, but that's pretty incredible. So yeah, so I mean, that pretty much wraps up this episode. And just a little bit to kind of like tie in a lot of the things that you were just sharing is that there's so many similarities, more than I even realized, by the archery and all these things. And the way we see, the way I learned archery, as I was mentioning before, is more this idea of like taking a step back in order to go multiple steps forward. And there's so many more intricacies to it. There's so many more, it all depends on your practice. It all depends on, your goals and your targets and your ambitions and where you want to go with it. In your particular situation, you're sharing that you don't know if Olympics is in your books or not. But if it will, it better be worth it. Yes, it's beautiful to have all these accolades and rewards and all that kind of stuff. But if you're not having fun while you're doing it, it's probably not going to be an option.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of business owners need to hear that. It's the business is in a form an Olympics. It's a form of a, but if you're not going to enjoy doing it, it's probably not worth it. And just because it makes money or just because whatever, yes, there is reward at the end of the game, but you gotta really enjoy doing it. And I mean, like, truly enjoy it.
So that's a huge. Be miserable.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, tell me about it. I'll tell you how many businesses I've had, and it's tough. Listen, it's really tough, and I'm sure your training is not easy. I'm sure you're on when you're at the competition. I'm sure you're facing also stress and some level of anxiety. And if it wasn't fun, you'd probably not be going on that field again. Yeah, that's crazy. How did you do in the last few days?
It was all right.
In the competition.
I had some equipment issues.
Okay.
So I was trying to work that out. The first day I went out, I was super just inconsistent, couldn't figure out why. There was something called my timing on my bow was off. So my top cam or stop was hitting after my bottom one. So that was causing it to be like super inconsistent.
Mm.
So some arrows I would hit where I wanted, sometimes it would go high, it was just super off. So I went back, fixed that, got it fixed for the next day, went out to the practice range, my bow got knocked over.
Oh no.
So that messed up my scope a little bit. Sometimes your bow gets knocked over and you're okay, but this time it messed up my scope. So I went out and I didn't have time to readjust everything. So I just clicked it over somewhat,
Wow.
got it pretty close, and went out and just tried to have fun and figure out how to compensate for the way it was messed up. So it wasn't the best. I wasn't happy with it. People are like, "Oh, you still did good," but I'm still just like, it wasn't good enough.
Spoken like a true athlete. So,
wasn't
hey, I
good
need to do
enough.
better.
Yeah.
So that's great. No, I mean that's really important, and that's really what it's about. That's competition. So yeah, so that does wrap up this episode. Thank you all so much. Thank you, CJ, for
Thanks for
doing
having
this.
me.
It's really appreciated. And good luck in everything that you do.
Thank you.
Pleasure. All right. See you soon, guys. Bye bye. That's it for this week's episode of the Exceptionally Irresistible Show. What has inspired you to take action in your life? Take action now. Take the first step, share it with a friend, or write it in a journal. Subscribe and share this episode, and remember, you too are exceptionally irresistible.